Good evening, Hawks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Atlanta Sports District. I'm your host, Russell Spence, coming to you directly after a 117-100 win over the New Orleans Pelicans. During our game today, we received word that Trae Young has been traded to the Washington Wizards for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. He was seen on the court during the game saying his goodbyes to the coaching staff and to the fan base. I would like to start today's game discussion with some stories from my life. When I was a sophomore in high school, we'd just gone through the wonderful 2016 run, and we were obviously blowing up the team. We had gotten rid of a lot of the players that were very good, and we were going into a full rebuild, and that was quite obvious by our moves. And my best friend in high school, he played basketball with me, and he kept telling me, we're going to draft this kid named Trae Young. And I knew who Trae was, but Trae was projected to go in the back end of the first round. He was a smaller guard. He was a 5-star, but he was not projected to go very high. Well, fast forward, Trae Young has the most wonderful guard season we've ever seen, at least in my lifetime, from a guard in college. He leads the entire nation in points and assists, and we draft him 5th overall after trading back from 3rd overall in the famed Luka Doncic and Trae Young trade. Since that moment, I have watched every single moment of Trae Young's professional career. I've never missed a minute. Not one. And I can truthfully say I've never seen a more amazing basketball player. He has made watching the Hawks be exceedingly fun for many years. I will tell you, I own 2 jerseys of the Atlanta Hawks. One is Trae Young and one is Nikola Jurisic. That's it. Trae Young is the profile picture of this channel. Profile picture is of all of my channels. He's the profile picture of everything that is for this podcast. He is my favorite Hawk of all time. Bar none. So, this is a hard pill to swallow. Honestly. I am very much on record that I believe this is a mistake. I believe having one of the greatest offensive players on planet Earth does not come around every other day. And not building around that player's strengths is the real problem with the Hawks. That being said, I think this is also a horrible misunderstanding of where the team is going. I think this team, if we had done what we were supposed to do, that this team would be a real winner. But instead, we refuse to do that. And that makes me have animosity towards the people who have refused to do that. Because I fully and wholeheartedly believe that if we had played defensive lineups around Trae Young this year, he would still be an Atlanta Hawk. But we would not do that. That greatly frustrates me. This entire problem, scenario, whatever you want to call it, that the Hawks find themselves in, greatly frustrates me. And quite honestly, I find myself very pessimistic about our this season and next season's goals of being a good team. I do not believe we can do that without him. Because quite honestly, what you're asking is that players who've never been to a playoffs, players that have never had this kind of responsibility, players that are not this kind of offensive player, to take a higher workload and to do something positive with it right away. That is a very poor expectation to have. I think that this trade solidifies that we will not have a very good rest of our season. I think this trade solidifies that next year we're going to draft very high because we have the New Orleans Pelicans pick, and we'll get into they're terrible. So we're going to draft really highly, and then you have to integrate a rookie into what you're doing, and that takes a few seasons. I think that this trade solidifies that we are moving in another direction that is a rebuild, which is what is also going to get Quinn Snyder fired. That's another thing I don't understand. Building around Trae's strengths was the only thing that could get him to keep his job. When this season doesn't go well, he will be fired. And he doesn't want to be in a rebuild anyway. That's the reason he left Utah. So why did you not build around your best player's strengths? I'll never understand it. As I said, this is a very emotional day for me. I couldn't be more frustrated. I wish it was different, but now this is the reality we have to live in. And as Hawks fans, I will continue to support them, wish the best for them, but I also have to look realistically and know where our roster is right now and the fact that we do not have the offensive firepower we need to get things done. The return is comical, but it's the situation that the current CBA puts every NBA team in. You can't physically pay players anymore with the CBA. And so Trae Young being a smaller guard is going to make it where you especially can't pay those guys. And he is going to sign some extension in Washington, and they will probably see that you again cannot pay anyone in the current landscape. I mean, the fact that the Hawks have so many wonderful contracts like Jalen Johnson and Dyson and Onyeka on these great contracts, it's fine and dandy. But the second that one of those guys gets the opportunity to make more than what they're making, which is going to happen, if the current CBA does not change, it will go right back to where it was, and it'll be everybody is in cap Hades again, and it's just not, the current situation with the CBA is not sustainable. You have teams that are literally selling off players for nothing to stay in, cap, quality position of cap. You look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're like, well, we have this Dylan Jones, we like him, he's a first-round pick, but he's going to be paid like $11 million, and we don't have that because we just had to sign 3 of our players, so a guy we just spent a first-round pick on that we like, we're going to cut him for nothing. That kind of thing is going to become very common under the current CBA, and it's the reason why we just traded Trae Young. The CBA is the money structure around what we have going on is the reason why we had to trade him in our eyes. I don't agree with that. I think it was a very, very poor decision. I think it was very poor judgment. But until the CBA changes, we don't have money. And Trae was going to cost money. So, now let's move to the game. In tonight's game, we saw what I've been talking about for a very long time. I'm going to start with the defense. Today, Onyeka Okongwu didn't play. He's been dealing with some sort of flu-like illness. He's been very sick. He did not play in tonight's game. So the starter at center, because Kristaps Porzingis is still on a minutes restriction, was Mohamed Gay. He played fantastic. And the defense throughout the entire game was fantastic. This is what I've been saying. I think Mo Gay makes the defense a top 10 unit in basketball. When you don't play that guy, that doesn't happen, and that's a big problem. The defense was overall fantastic. As I said, they only scored 100 points in the game, and a large majority of that was Zion Williamson bowling ball, offensive fouling, ramming through people to get to the rim. There were multiple replays they showed on the broadcast where Zion's taking an elbow and ripping it through and hitting, one of our guys guarding him, Jalen or Mo or KP, just ripping it through his head and laying it in. And I'm going, you have to call that. But other than that, the defense was fantastic. Spot on. Turnovers, blocks, steals, Everything you can think of that you can do positively, defensively, we did it throughout the whole game. And again, the catalyst for that was Moge. When we talk about in the player-by-player section, I'll read you his whole stat line. It was insanity. He is the kind of player that you cannot afford to not play, and yet we've been not playing him. I don't understand that. I would not be making that decision. Moge would play significant minutes every game for the rest of the year for me. Especially without Trae, when you need defense, because now we can't score nearly as well as we could when you don't have Trae Young. You got to have defensive, ability and equity, and that's what Moge has. That guy's got to play. The defense was fantastic throughout the night. Jalen had a nice bounce back defensive game. KP played okay on defense. They kept him out of the action as much as possible. Zach played wonderfully defensively. Naw played wonderful defensively. There were just so many wonderful things defensively. Offensively, we moved the ball very well. We actually had pretty good spacing. A few players had nice bounce back games, like Zach had a great game, and Jalen played very well. Naw didn't shoot the ball well. KP didn't shoot the ball well, but the rest of the team kind of had a normal, good offensive game with good output. If those two would have shot the ball better, we would have really blown them out. And quite honestly, we took care of the ball pretty well. It was just overall a wonderful performance. But again, that all stemmed from us playing defense. When you play defense well, that is when you can create easy offense. This team needs easy offense because we don't have a true engine anymore because we just traded him for a bag of balls. Now, I do like Corey Kispert. I am not in favor of bringing in CJ McCollum. If it were me, CJ McCollum would be cut right now. Seriously, I would waive him. Because I think that he brings the exact same problems that came with Trae, except for he's a worse passer and he's a just worse overall offensive player, worse engine, and is just as bad on defense. Doesn't give you all the wonderful offensive things, except for he can shoot pretty well. And I would not have him. I would just roll with what we got. I like Kispert though. Kispert plays good defense and he can really shoot. So I would love to keep him. I loved him out of Gonzaga. Anybody who knows me knows I was a huge Corey Kispert guy, especially because of his ability to play in transition. So that's good. But with what I would be going with is no CJ McCollum and just play Dyson, Naw, and Kennard as your three guards that play. And Kennard doesn't play a ton. Most of the time we have a guard and a point guard who can really, really defend. That's where I would be going. If you're going away from Trae Young, you need to be going into your defense. So now let's move to the player-by-player section of today's game. So starting off, we will go with Asa Newell. Asa played 7 minutes. He scored 2 points on 1 of 3 shooting. He had a rebound, assist, and a turnover. Finished the game +1. Asa actually played pretty okay on defense. I talked about this with a person the other day, but I think when you're playing on the court with Mo, it makes your life more simple defensively, and almost all of Ace's minutes tonight were with Mo on the floor. Mo was playing center. And so, Mo is just, kind of everywhere defensively. He's making up for all of the errors and the things that other people can't do. He's making it to everything. And Ace is just I guard that guy right there. That one dude, I've got him. And when it simplifies his job, he actually did it pretty well. Again, he only played 7 minutes. Offensively, it was a little rough. He did have a couple possessions where they switched a guard onto him and he just stuck him right in the paint and they had to foul or they had to do whatever. That kind of thing I love to see from your posts where it's I talk about punish the coverage. If they switch, punish that. The center needs to go stick that guard in the rim and say, you are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to switch anymore because I will do this every time and I will dunk it every time. That is how you punish that coverage. Wonderful by Asa. That's one thing that Moge did last game that was really good when he would just he noticed in transition that there was a guy on him that was way too small and he just ran to the front of the rim and pinned him and said, throw me the ball. Because if I can catch it, I'm going to dunk it because this guy's way too small. And then they would foul him. That's really, really adequate ways of attacking that kind of coverage. I really like that from Asa. Moving on, we will talk about Vít Krejci. Vít played 19 minutes. He had 5 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, an assist, and 3 fouls. He struggled with the fouls in the first half, but he was plus 17. The defense was very good from Veet tonight. Had a lot of hands in passing lanes, hands on dribble, that sort of thing. He was tipping the ball away, getting steals. He only was credited with 1 steal and a block, but a lot of times I don't love how they categorize steals, because sometimes, like, if it's kind of ambiguous, they'll just say forced turnover and they won't count it as a steal, or they'll give it to the guy who picked up the ball. That's not what's supposed to happen. If you were the one who tipped it away, you're supposed to get the steal. So I thought Veet had a lot of plays where he could have been credited with a steal. Thought the defense was very good tonight. Played very well. Moving on to Luke Kennard. He played 22 minutes, had 13 points on 5 of 6 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3. He had an assist and a foul. He was plus 3. Overall, Luke Kennard had the misfortune of playing a lot on the floor with Kristaps Porzingis tonight, which we'll talk about, but he played quite poor. And so he didn't have a wonderful plus minus, but he overall played very well. He didn't turn the ball over. He had a lot of great ball movement. He made shots. He took shots. He was aggressive. And the defense, when he's able to play on the floor with players that help cover his defensive maladies, like there was a couple of times where it was Kennard's on the floor, but also Dyson and Zach and Mo are on the floor, or Dyson and Zach and Jalen are on the floor. And you go, that's kind of tenable. We can handle this. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. And that helped some of those problems that he has sometimes. Now moving to Kristaps. He played 22 minutes, had 13 points on 4 of 11, 4 of 8 from 3. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 fouls. He finished the game at a net 0. He did have a steal and a block, but honestly, KP looked very sluggish tonight. He still played on the back line, so he was able to protect the rim pretty well. It's the reason why the bad shooting and the not super great offensive output didn't put him in the negative, because he did actually help some of the paint problems we were having. There weren't a ton of them, but like I said, Zion was just kind of like offensive foul battering ramming to the rim. And so KP was a 7-3 guy in there, making sure that didn't happen. Pretty helpful. But overall, he just moved kind of sluggish tonight. And I worry that this is kind of what happens with KP. He comes back and he plays pretty well. And then whatever's going on with him physically, all of a sudden it starts to kind of take a downturn. He's not playing as well as he was. And so I'm hoping that's not what's on the horizon. Moving to the starters, we will talk about Mohamed Gay. Mo Gay played 31 minutes. He had 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Not great efficiency, 1 of 4 from 3. He had 11 rebounds, 6 assists, did have 5 turnovers, but had 2 blocks, 4 steals, and ended the game plus 27. Meaning when Mo Gay wasn't on the floor, we lost by 10. That is one heck of a basketball game. Mo Gay, honestly, he only got credited for 4 steals. I counted at least 7 times where he got a hand on the basketball and we picked it up. And I would say that's a steal for Mo Gay. At least 7 times. There were some that I was like, that's pretty on the fence. He could have had 10 steals in tonight's basketball game if the scorebook people had made different decisions. I mean, he was everywhere. He had a few just monster super freak blocks. There was a play where he went up and chased down and put one against the backboard, and then they picked it back up because he was flying out of bounds because the ball, after it fell straight down after he pinned it off the backboard. And then as the guy picked it up and started to lay it in again, Naw came and slapped it again. And I said, I'm surprised that the ball didn't get deflated because they killed that thing against the backboard. And so the defense is just so insanely good from Mo Gay. And it's to the point where, next year, I honestly would be considering, what does it look like if our starting lineup is like Dyson, Naw, Zach, Jalen, Mo. Nobody ever scores. That's what it looks like. That's kind of where my brain is going. And then let's say you're like, okay, well, we drafted Darren Peterson. He's probably going to start. So Naw just goes to the bench. Now you got Darren Peterson, Dyson, Zach, Jalen, Mo. I'm going, that defensively is just ridiculous. If your 4th best defender on your starting lineup is Jalen Johnson, you're going to have an insanely good defensive lineup. That's what I would be moving to. I know I love Onyeka. Onyeka is a great player. Onyeka is extraordinarily small. And with us needing to play, defense first, we're going to be a kind of a grit and grinded out team. That kind of team needs a 7-foot tall, absolute super freak protecting and patrolling the way Mo Gay can. Moving on, we'll talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker next. He had 34 minutes, 17 points on 6 of 18 shooting. He was 2 of 12 from 3, but they were all good looks. It was just, sometimes you just don't make shots. That happens, and he's had a huge workload. He still scored 17 points. He still was a positive player tonight. Just had a bad shooting night from 3. He had 6 rebounds and 6 assists with only 1 turnover. That's the thing that I look at and I go, that's a good game from Noel. If he had 6 assists and only 1 turnover, we're good. And he finished the game plus 16. Like I said, he played very well. The team won in his minutes. And so I would like to see just him make a couple more shots. But honestly, keep playing this under control. That's the thing we need from Noel. When he gets a little bit, I call it head over toes. He's just running a little too hard, just playing a little too fast. He's just a little out of control. That's when the turnovers happen. That's when things can get kind of out of whack with him. We definitely need this under control, taking good shots. If you make them, you make them. If you miss them, you miss them. It doesn't matter either way. We're just needing the under control play because the under control play is sustainable, and that will lead to wins. Moving on, we'll talk about Dyson Daniels next. Dyson had 35 minutes, 13 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 0 of 1 from 3. It was an ugly one. His shot is still a problem. He had 8 rebounds and 8 assists with only 2 turnovers. He finished the game plus 9. Defense was great. They played him on Derek Queen, which I thought was very interesting because Queen is only a few inches taller than Dyson and plays on the perimeter the majority of the time like a guard. And that's the kind of thing that I say, like, if you've got Derek Queen on the perimeter, we'll just guard him with our best perimeter defender. Now he can't do anything because he can't even breathe. He had a really rough game. Derek Queen ended tonight with only 6 points on 9 shots. That's what Dyson Daniels did to him. He was in the bottomless pit of despair, as I like to say, because that's what Dyson Daniels put him in. He said, you're going to sit right there. You're never going to get out. And I really enjoy that, coming from a Hawks fan. Next, we're going to talk about Jalen Johnson. He played 36 minutes. He had 19 points on 9 of 18 shooting, 0 of 5 from 3. He's been on a little 3-point slump. If he had made 1 or 2 of those, the efficiency goes right back to being very good. I'm not too worried about that, but he did have 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. 6 turnovers to 5 assists, not a great ratio. But overall, he played fine. Like I said, the defense was greatly improved tonight. He was much more locked in, and I do think that has something to do with playing with Mo. When Mo is the guy who's closing out and then coming back and then getting a steal here and blocking and doing this and doing that, when he's the one having to go and do all that stuff, Jalen just sits there and goes, I'm guarding Bryce McGowan's. I get to sit here and try to make him not score. I'm guarding Carlo Matkovic or whatever his name. I don't even know his name. Yeah, he's not too worried about him scoring his 2 points in 13 minutes. To me, that's what you would want for Jalen, is to him to not have to worry about defense. And Mo kind of lets you do that. And so that's the reason, again, I really like Mo playing a huge minute allocation. And lastly, we're going to talk about Zachary Bichase, because that kid played fantastic. He had 34 minutes, 25 points on 8 of 13 shooting, 7 of 9 from 3, 8 rebounds, 3 turnovers, no assists. He was plus 6. The defense was fantastic. He recorded a block, no steals, but honestly, I mean, he looked like a number 1 pick. And he looked aggressive. That's the thing I've always said about Zach. For some reason, he doesn't have the confidence a lot of other players have. I want him to play like he's a first overall pick in the entire draft. I want him to go, you can't stop me, and I know it, and you know it, because I'm a 6'11", very athletic player who can shoot, handle, and pass. What are you? You're not, because there's a reason I was the first overall pick and you weren't. To most players in the NBA, that is the way that he should be trying to play. I don't really understand not playing with confidence when you can make shots. Trust me, if I wasn't feeling good and I felt like I could make shots that day, I was really confident all the time. I would talk trash. I would shoot it in your face because I'm confident. I don't understand being the first pick in the whole draft with all the tools that Zach has and not being confident at this point. And I'm hoping that he's turning that corner. Tonight was an absolutely wonderful game from Zachary Chasse. Moving forward, we have kind of an interesting slate coming up. The Nuggets have been without Jokic and seem to be still without Jokic. And so that should be a less difficult game than maybe we were expecting it to be. And then we've got the Warriors and Lakers, which two pretty good basketball teams, but also two winnable games. We've already beaten the Lakers this year in a game where Moge went insane. So hopefully we'll understand that he has a very good matchup against them because he is such a super athletic player and they don't have too many of those guys. And I'm just thinking that we can maybe get off the schneid a little bit, play a little bit better. I do think that the Trae Young trade really lowers our ceiling for this season, but hopefully we can find a way to turn the money that was going to be Trae Young into something very productive for the team. I'm still a Hawks fan, even though I'm extraordinarily disappointed. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments about everything I've said about the Trae Young deal. Let me know what you think. At the end of the day, like I said, we're going to continue to be Hawks fans. We're going to continue to root for and cheer for and fight for our hometown team here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things. Tell a friend about the podcast. Let me know about your favorite Trae Young memories. And above all else, I hope you have a wonderful day.